All right, folks, welcome to our connection activity for Heart Intelligence Week. This week, Tim is going to talk to us about how to use this not new science, but how to use this science that tells us about how our hearts are connected to our brains and how to implement that in our classroom to help our students. Tim, go ahead and show us how it works.
I mean, I'm going to agree with you. It's new science, right? Like when we think about science in science class, we're like, oh, it's been stuff for like hundreds and thousands of years. And I mean, this is fairly new research that's talking about this idea that when you actually like look at the brain and heart waves on different monitors, so like your EKG or EEG, like when you're stressed, when you're like anxious, when you're in kind of a state of panic, like they're actually both very jagged and they don't line up with each other at all. And like you can actually go, look at images of this, watch some videos and stuff on this, and we'll put some resources out there for you as well in our free resources folder for you. But it's interesting to see that behavior. And then what we're going to talk about is when we actually are able to get ourselves into our heart more, we actually have a different level of intelligence. And it's actually shown through those, brain and heart wave patterns that if you can get yourself into a space of like gratitude, for example, or courage, or just like calm and presence and just being here. And maybe it's even putting a hand on the heart so you can really like get your energy to like get away from our intellect, from our brain that's telling us how to like see the world, behave in the world, like think of the world, all of our constructs. And we can get into like our true core of like the I am. And I think we've talked a little bit about Master Co and some of that, like, and this is like who we really are is in here. And so if we can listen to our heart, we end up in a space of knowing more than what we actually know up in our head. And so we're going to do a quick connection activity where I've not actually done this specific meditation in my class, but I'll show you kind of how I've tied it in. But I do want to give you one just for your own space because I think it's helped me as a teacher when I get stressed or, like I just go AWOL for a moment because I've got to get this lesson planned. I got to go to this meeting. I got to go to this event. I got to get home. I got to take care of the dogs. And then I have to actually teach and be present with my students this class right here, right now, and get myself back into a space where I can actually manage all of it. Even though like my brain's telling me panic, panic, panic. And it's like, no, be here, bro. Like you're good. So it'll be a little bit of a two-part here for our connection activity. So, and my brain's a little bit scattered right now. I can't even remember if I actually talked about when you're in that gratitude, your heart waves and your brain waves actually smooth out and they are in sync with one another. I think I forgot to actually say that. So I'm just like, I can feel my own anxiety right now because like, I'm so passionate about this thought and this idea right now because of the way it's shown up in my own world that I want to do this right, and so like I would love to encourage you all to check out the free resources and dive deeper on this, but here's kind of my intro for you all right? So for my students, let me start here. This is how I use it. It's one of my like ninja tactics, right? Like we have those things that we don't really teach, but we do teach, and this is one of those for me. And so I'm sure you've had the experience where a student comes in, they've done their homework, they've participated in class, and all of a sudden they show up on test day and they're like, Freeburg, I don't know what I do. I'm not ready for this test. Like I'm going to fail, like, and I'm like, whoa. I know you. Like I just want to like shake you back to like present, but I can't. And so like I ninja attack them a little bit instead. I'm like, no, like you've been here. I know you know what you're doing. You're up on the board with me. Like you've got this. I know you've got this. And so like I try to get them into that spot where I'm like, hey, do me a favor. Like close your eyes just for a second. Like take a couple deep breaths, like into your heart for me for a moment. Just be like really feel like the beat of your heart that's probably trying to pop out of your chest right now because you're crazy, you're anxious, you're stressed, right? Let it calm down. And like even just like that, a little bit of a goofiness because that's my personality. You don't have to be goofy with it, right? But like get them into their heart for a moment, out of their head, because their head is telling them all these lies. Get them back into their truth for a moment, especially, the student that has done the work. Now, you've got a student probably hasn't done anything, and they actually are stressed out because they literally don't know anything and they're going to fail the test. But they will also perform better if they get out of their panic mode and into a calm state, right?
Yeah.
And so, and maybe it's like, hey, what happened this morning that you were grateful for, right? Or what's something that you're looking forward to after school today? Or do you got any plans this weekend? Like, what's something you're looking forward to? What's something about your family you're grateful for? Like, get something where they go into like a space of heartfelt feeling, and gratitude is a really good spot to go for that. So what are you grateful for? What are you appreciative of? What's something you're excited about? When's a time that you overcame something and you showed courage, you showed resilience? Like, these are all really good kind of like tag phrases to get people into that heartfelt space and out of their head. And so I'll try to sneak attack that in on a student when they're in that panic mode before they take the test. I know in our meditation connection activity, I talked about this too. I will sometimes do like a 60-second or 2-minute meditation before a test if I can feel like the whole class is in that mode, and universally give them some of this guidance. And again, like, I don't speak strictly to it being heart intelligence. I'm just aware that I know when I get them out of panic mode from their head, that their heart and their brain will align better. And in the moment when they showed up to my class and they were stressed and they were like, I don't know anything on this test, and they calm back down and they are like, oh wait, I remember doing this one on the board. Oh yeah, this was like that one from the homework the other night. When they're in that state, they're in a much more likely position to succeed on the test, or at least to perform to the best of their ability. And I truly believe that with heart intelligence, we actually do know more in this space than we do up here. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but that's kind of how I'll use it in my class. So I'll take a quick breather there before we actually do the meditation and kind of finish out this activity. But that's kind of how I show up with it in my classroom.
That's great, Tim. The thing I really appreciate is like those the prompts for what to get the student to think about so that they can get recentered in a place that is going to allow them to actually get those rhythms back in connection, right? Because there's specific triggers, for lack of a better term, that are going to help them get into that space without needing 20 minutes to like take the time and space. That is also usually a good solution to that. One thing that I want to follow up with you about personally, because this is something that I'm still really working on and struggling with. So I'm kind of going to use you and the podcast to like get some personal help here.
Absolutely.
I like the term ninja, but I also, we talked about Star Wars last week, like the idea of like the Jedi mind trick of like noticing when you're not in rhythm. What are some things that you do to help you realize or be aware of where you're at personally, right? So that you know that it's time to take the time in the space, or to like intentionally think about something that you're grateful for, or something like that. What are the things that you do to stay aware of that?
Three things are kind of popping in my mind right now. One is the blatantly obvious, right? Like, I came from a meeting with my principal and I just got told that something got reported because it got misconstrued from a word that got shared to a word to a parent that got mad about whatever, right? And so now I'm in a space where I'm like, they're wrong, I'm coming at them, and like, I'm not going to be a very good teacher in that space. So that to me is the most like the most blatant to me. And I will also say that before I started practicing any form of mindfulness, I would still miss those, right? And I would show up in my classroom and be like, why aren't you learning? It just carries right into it. Versus now I'm like, no, before you walk into that class, I don't care if I'm 2 minutes late to class, partly because I have flexible with all my students, right? Like, I'm like, I'm going to show up 2 minutes late because it's going to be better for all of them. And they're not going to give me a bad time because they know I'm chill with them. Right. And so I've done that before. And so I'm like, okay. That happened. You're frustrated. It's okay. Acknowledge it. You see it. That is anger. That is frustration. All right. What are you grateful for? You're grateful that your principal knows that you're a good teacher. Your principal knows that you put the students first. Your principal knows that you're here for the kids, and you believe that your principal in the long run has your back. Okay. Go teach these kids. And so I just, I got to shift my focus, shift my mindset, and then jump into it. And then, we're performers a little bit as well. And so, and you and I are both athletes, so we know gamers, right?
Yeah.
Like we got to get into game time, and all other things get compartmentalized and shut off for a moment. And I got to focus on the task at hand.
Yeah.
But it is much easier to do when I can clear my mind for even the briefest of moments.
For sure.
I think the other ones that are funny to me that I've seen happen a handful of times is I slept through an alarm clock once. I got called by our front office that said, "Hey, are you coming to school today?" I was like, "Yeah, why? What's up?" She's like, "It's 8:20 and kids are in your classroom. Like they got here at 8:15, right?" And I'm like, "Oh." It's like, I'm in bed. I'll be there in like 8 minutes because I lived like 5 minutes from the high school at the time.
Yeah.
Literally woke up, threw on deodorant, threw on clean clothes, ran out the door, sprinted from my car across the parking lot, up the flights of stairs into my room where I had somebody covering my class for a moment. I was like, "All right, thank you, appreciate it. I got it." And I just go right into teaching mode. And my whole class just goes, "Freeburg, are you okay?" And like, that's my trigger, right? When my students go, "Freeburg, are you okay?" I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm not okay." And all right. And like, even if they're still there, I'm like, "Okay, no, I appreciate it. You've got something on the board. Do something. I'll be right back." And I'll let them do whatever they got to do. Maybe there's a warm up, or I put one question on the board and I go and I sit and I block out everything to the best of my ability. I go back into the hall for a moment and I kind of recenter myself, similar things. It's like, okay, you slept through your alarm. The kids love you. They're concerned about you. Okay, that's a really good thing. You've connected with the kids. They care about you. They need you to show up so you can teach them today. All right, here we go. Like, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those two are really funny. And then the other ones are just like sometimes, and I talked about this at the beginning of the episode here, is like I'll get really excited and I will lose track of what I'm doing, or I'll totally skip over an important piece of information for the lesson or the story. And like I start to read body language and like blank stares. I'm like, "This doesn't make sense, does it?" And they're like, "No, how'd you go from here to here?" I'm like, "Oh, I didn't tell you how to do that, did I?" And so I think those are my three that I think of.
Okay. Yeah. And that one in particular really resonates with me. Like that idea of, I mean, obviously we have many things in common. That's why we're such close friends, right? But that idea of like getting so passionate about something that your mind is racing at a speed that like the rest of you nor your audience can keep up with, because you're just like,
right.
I can totally empathize with that one. And that is one that like, yeah, it takes me a little bit longer. Like it usually takes me not seeing the body language, but like someone raising their hand and being like, "What the hell are you talking about, man?"
Right.
So that's a good idea for me right there. It's just to just like do a better job of kind of like reading the room sometimes when I'm getting passionate.
Have you had this one happen? This is one where I start to catch myself before I read body language. I will be doing an equation and I'll write like 9 times 6 is what I'm trying to write, but I'll write 54. Like I write the answer instead of showing the steps, because exactly what you said, right? My brain is so far in front of my body that I'm like, "Oh no, slow down, Tim." Have you ever like written like the answer while you were trying to like talk the question?
Luckily, no, only because I don't use the board in that fashion. But I for sure, if I was using the board in that fashion, I know I would do that, because there are times when like we do these. I'm sure everybody knows KWL. Like, what do you know? What do you want to know? What did we learn? Right? Like at the end of a unit, you fill in that last column. And when the kids will write something up there that they think they know, and I like want to like jump like and be like, "Oh, there's a thing about that that's really interesting," or that they want to know, like I'll start thinking about like the lesson that would go to answering that question rather than that. And I'll like, for me, how that transcribes on the board is that I will just like, I'm already not a great speller, but spelling goes to hell in a handbasket. And then the other thing is like, I constantly get compliments on my handwriting.
Oh, nice.
but that's because it's something that I'm like very, very thoughtful about. Like I really have to like think through like, okay, this is how we make a tea kind of thing. Because if I just write like at the pace that my brain is going, it is terrible. And
Yeah.
so my students will point out, like they know that I'm excited if the handwriting gets bad.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just sloppy. They're like, oh, he's thinking, not writing because he's
Yeah.
getting sloppy. So
He's all up in his head right now.
yeah. Yeah. So I have had kids point that out to me. So we can tell you when you're excited when your handwriting gets bad.
I love that. I love that. Awesome. Well, I want to finish our connection activity here with just getting us into a space. And as you go through this activity, like I want you to this is more for you as a listener right now.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to think about how can this help you with making the tough decision. How can this help you get into a space where you're more creative to help your struggling students? How can this help you get into a space that will allow you to differentiate your instruction better? Like those are the things that for me are always hard. And if I'm in my head, I'm like, well, they got their resources, they'll figure it out, pick them up by their bootstraps, let's go, right? Versus if I get in my heart, I'm like, no, like I know, XYZ student, this is what they need. I know ABC students, they need this. I know my, LMNOs, these need this, right? I'm just throwing letters out for student names. Like I know that when I get into my heart and I allow myself to get creative instead of intellectual, I don't know if that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I come up with better solutions and more individualized, heartfelt solutions. So that's where I'm going to want you to use this and encourage you to use this. And so it usually only takes 3 or 4 minutes of getting you from a panicked state into a calm state. I'll also add this if you're in a relationship or a friendship and you're trying to help someone that is in a state of panic or anxiety, they don't actually need to be the one that does this to get back to a calm state and feel flow. You can actually transfer this from body to body. So if you get yourself into a calm state and you actually like hold your partner, or if it's a friend and you can hug them, or if you're just in like proximity, like you don't like a student, maybe you're not going to be like hugging them really, but maybe you're near them, or like you are in a spot where maybe you can just be in presence with them so they can feel your energy, and your calmness will actually help bring them back to a state without them doing this activity. So I think there's a lot of power there too. So anyways, we're gonna basically just breathe into our heart for about 3 minutes here. So go ahead, get yourself into a nice comfortable space, feet on the floor. You don't have to have a super straight, rigid back, but just be in a comfortable position with pretty good posture. And if you're comfortable with it, I'll invite you to close your eyes. I'm going to keep my eyes open primarily just for timing, so I don't go into like a 7-minute trance with you all. But I'm gonna guide us through this process and know that wherever you're at, you're going to be in a safe space, and we're with you. So go ahead and take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, in through your nose, out through your mouth. And this time, as you go in through the nose, go ahead and press the tongue to the roof of your mouth and keep it there as you breathe out through your nose, and just kind of go to a normal breathing pattern. By having the tongue to the roof of your mouth, it actually helps complete the energetic circle through your body. And so this will help kind of generate that flow. Now, I'm going to encourage you to take at least one hand. If not, you can do 2 hands and just place it over your heart and feel your heart beating. And as you continue to breathe, just recognize and feel your heart beating. Know that it is there supplying life. It's helping keep you alive. It's providing wisdom. Know that your heart already knows what you need to know, and it's just waiting for you to ask the right question. Continue to breathe deep into your heart. Take another 2 or 3 breaths, just really focused on feeling that heartbeat in your hands. feeling that breath going into your heart each time. As you continue to breathe, I'm going to encourage you to think of a time that you were grateful, like something that just, warms your heart. Maybe it's something from your childhood. Maybe it's something from the recent weeks. Maybe it's something that even happened today, something that lit you up and made you smile and made you feel good, made you feel alive. And as you see that feeling, as you remember the smells, remember the sounds of that exact experience, that moment you were grateful, just letting that be a very vivid picture in your mind, bright color, playful, joyful noise. Just let all of that into your heart. And now think of another moment, maybe another moment from childhood. Maybe it was a moment with one of your good friends that just makes you laugh. Maybe it's one of those inside jokes. Maybe it's movie quotes like Dave and I have. And just have those moments of gratitude, have those moments of appreciation start to stack on each other. Now grab another moment of gratefulness. And if you want, you can even physically reach out like you're grabbing that memory, grabbing that picture and pulling it into your heart. And then grab another moment that you're grateful for. Maybe it's your dogs, bring it into your heart. Maybe it's your spouse, bring it into your heart. Maybe it's your parents. Go ahead and grab that, bring it into your heart, and just overfill your heart with joy, and then breathe it all in deep to your heart. And know that all of that is there at any moment you need it. And that any decision you need to make, no matter how hard it feels, no matter how difficult that situation could be, no matter how long you've struggled trying to find the right answer, the right solution, that your creativity is stronger when you are here in your heart and you are present. Take one more big deep breath. And as you exhale, you can go ahead and open up your eyes. And just kind of take a moment to just feel your surroundings again, and just kind of bring yourself right back here and know that everything you need to know is deep inside your heart. So I hope that was an opportunity for you to actually feel how your brain and your heart actually start to align when you go to that space. And I hope that it can be something that serves you well in your life to help you with those tough decisions and help you get out of a writer's block or a creative block, and allow you to find what is your truth that is going to guide you to that next right step. So we appreciate you all being with us, and we love you all. We'll see you on Thursday.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim.